Hi everyone! For those who don't know me, I live in Switzerland. Switzerland is known for its beautiful landscapes, for its chocolates, and for its watches. But Switzerland has also many dark chapters in its history. And one of this chapter is its relation to war, especially the profit of war. Historically, Switzerland has sent many of its citizens as foreign mercenaries into various global conflicts. But in modern history, especially with the beginning of the 20th century, Switzerland was known for its arms export. Despite having a small footprint in the global arms trade, Swiss weapons played a crucial role in certain conflicts. One of this conflict was the war on Tamil Eelam. But Switzerland has also historically many regulations when it comes to the export of arms. But in recent times, these regulations are getting looser and looser, like my asshole did, after working for a specific Tamil organization.
Yo, man, how's it feel? It's hot, man. I smell my ass burning.
So let's dive into today's subject, which is Swiss arms export and how these arms were used in the conflict on Tamil Eelam. During the First World War, Swiss used its watch industry to build clockwork fuses for artillery shells. And after the First World War ended with the Treaty of Versailles, countries like Germany or Austria were forbidden to have an arms industry. And these industries soon shifted its bases to Switzerland. And that gave the Swiss arms production a big boost. But the Swiss state couldn't sell weapons because of its neutrality status, but the private companies could do that. Until then, there were no regulations from the state. That ended with 1938, when the Swiss state attempted to regulate its weapons export. From that time on, these private companies needed the authorization from the state to export arms. And soon the Second World War started, and during the Second World War, Swiss sold many weapons, and over 80% of them were sold to Germany and its allies.
Interesting, you come across like a nice guy, but you're really a piece of shit.
Hey,
with that comment.
come on.
Nah, that was a piece of fuck you.
But you can't criticize Switzerland for that, because in 46 days, Nazi German soldiers pumped up on crystal meth overrun France. And after that, Switzerland was surrounded by Nazi Germany and its allies. The next regulation was added in 1968, when it became clear that a Swiss company named Oerlikon and Burle falsely declared weapons and sent them to various countries that were in war. And one of these countries was Nigeria, that declared an embargo on Biafra, a secessionist republic. And during that embargo, famine was used as a weapon to crush the resistance of Biafra, and 1 to 2 million people died. From 1968 onwards, it was forbidden for Swiss arms companies to sell weapons to countries that were waging war or were violating human rights. Despite having these new regulations in place, Swiss companies still sold heavy waters to the military dictatorship in Argentina that was suspected to have a secret nuclear program. This company also sold plants and machines to build 6-hour rifles to the military dictatorship in Chile.
Thank you for coming in.
Fuck you.
In 2009, a new regulation was added to the Swiss arms export rules, and that was the re-export clause. The re-export clause means that countries who bought weapons from Switzerland can't give these weapons to another country without asking Switzerland for its permission. But after 2009, there were two controversies which are crucial. One was that Switzerland sold ammunition and parts of weapons to Saudi Arabia, which was launching a war against the Houthis in Yemen, and Switzerland denied that its weapons were donated to Ukraine from various European countries. And this year, the Swiss Council of States agreed to a new change of the regulation on the Swiss arms export. It has accepted the proposal that arms export to NATO countries who are waging war should be allowed, and that the re-export clause shouldn't be applied to them. And now the Swiss National Council needs to vote on that. And even if they agree, there will be a referendum, and the Swiss voters will have the final say in that. This was a short summary on the history of Swiss arms export and its regulation. So now let's dive into the topic how Swiss arms landed in the battlefields of Tamil Eelam. and the main benefactors of the Swiss arms was the Sri Lankan Navy. They used the 20mm and 30mm guns from Oerlikon and Bühle.
Again! You fucking idiots!
The Sri Lankan Navy had also its participation when it comes to massacring the Tamils. As an example, there is the famous Kumudini massacre, where the Sri Lankan Navy killed at least 28 Tamil civilians on a ferry. But also in the early 90s, when the Tigers controlled Jaffna, the Sri Lankan Navy played a huge role when it came to the massacring of Tamils. Because Jaffna is connected to the mainland through the Elephant Pass, and in Elephant Pass there was an army base. Many Tamils needed to traverse across the Jaffna Lagoon to reach the mainland. And in this Jaffna Lagoon, the Sri Lankan Navy massacred over 100 Tamils who tried to cross the Jaffna Lagoon. And the two main working horses of the Sri Lankan Navy were the Dwara vessels and the Colombo-class vessels. And the Colombo-class vessels were built in Sri Lanka. They were built on the model of the Sheldak. The Sheldak and Dwara vessels are from a certain country, which I won't name here, because this country has the capabilities to let my electronic gadgets explode, and I'm too broke to buy new ones. The battlefields during the Tamil Eelam was not only on the ground, but also on the seas around Tamil Eelam. And this was a very crucial battlefield for the Tigers, because their logistics were dependent on the sea lines of communication. And just to understand the scale of fighting that took place on the seas around Tamil Eelam, it's very important that we look on some numbers. Sri Lanka has bought at least 22 Dora craft vessels from various types. And from these 22, at least 15 were destroyed. And if you add the damaged one to it, the attrition rate of the Dwara lays at 90%. And a similar fate has the Colombo-class vessels. At least 22 were built during the war in Sri Lanka, and from these 22, 10 were destroyed. And if you add the damaged one to it, the attrition rate lays on 70%. And the degradation of the Tigers' naval capacities laid the foundation for the destruction in 2009. The case of Tamil Eelam is a clear indication why the re-export clause of Switzerland is very important. And if the Swiss people accept the new regulation, they shouldn't cry about immigration, because each war comes with death and destruction and immigration. And if you sell weapons, you don't have the right to cry about immigration.
When you pray for rain, you gotta deal with the mud too.
Thank you very much for your attention. Please leave a like or a comment in the comment section, and have a nice day.